Hi, Michael Bender again, voice of the Christian left. Existentialist morality, part 2. I say existentialist rather than existential because I am talking about the ism, not the act. So we were talking about not being pushed out, and modernism, which my interlocutor, I don't know if there was no gender attached. I can assume it's a he, but this was the way I can pull his chain or their chain by using the correct pronoun for when you don't know. They equated what I was saying with existentialism, which what they thought Pius X meant when he was talking about modernism. To me it looked like Protestantism. I guess it's existentialism, although I tell you, when I read it, and I did a book on this, on the Christian. It was originally called "The Radical Left Response to the Papal Anachronists." I changed it to the Illuminati. Again, it's a better title and it pulls chains. You got to be a little provocative when you write a book. So my reading of the syllabus of errors and the actual encyclical on modernism is that they were describing Protestantism, not. I still don't see existentialism in it. Maybe I'll look back at the essay, but I didn't see it. And a lot of existentialism happened after that piece of Dreck called an encyclical anyway. But Pius needed to worry about existentialism and its concept of inauthentic, unquestioned bad faith. If you're just obeying what the church tells you to do, that's bad faith. If you're going to Mass because you're supposed to, that's bad faith, according to Camus and Sartre and all the rest of them, all the rest of us, because I'm a bit of an existentialist myself. We won't talk about Heidegger because he liked us. The Nazis liked him, but the epistemology was still accurate. So what we do is more important than true belief. This is the whole point of the gospel. Acting in love is the eternal message. That's what being perfect is. Dwell on the concept of God as perfectly humble rather than perfectly just, and you might be useful to those who must be seen as anima Christi, the least that the world despises. And by the way, they can be the least. Prisoners don't get to be prisoners because they're nice people, but you're supposed to visit them. People who are naked probably did something regarding their money and the people in their lives that was bad. We find Christ in those people. The people who may be disagreeable, who smell, who would steal from you because they're desperate. Love those people as if they were God. Don't give them meatless stew. Put some steak in it instead. If you thought it was Christ that you were actually feeding, would you give them fake meat, or would you buy them a steak? People need to take what Jesus said seriously. Buy the steak for the person who you would give money to, not a bologna sandwich. So, religion and spirituality, of course, exist together because Loyola and Assisi, they actually did this stuff. Loyola's spiritual exercises became the 12 steps. Spirituality. Francis Assisi, he was a doer. Morality is made up for man's sake, not God's, and free will concerns not just individual acts, but in deciding what is right and wrong. Even in formalist systems, it is up to individuals to accept teachings, to have teachings, to know that if nobody knows doctrine in the way that it was known 100 years ago, because we don't think the same way. We have different language. We have different backgrounds in thought. Morality does not exist to appease God. Neither does salvation, nor deeds. Read 1 Corinthians 13. It's not just for weddings. We encounter God by loving others. This is the great thing, love. Especially, again, the unworthy. Compassion is good for its own sake. It's the extent to which the church teaches that is the measure of its closeness to Christ. By the way, this is not the easy way out. Morality is a social phenomenon. It includes the individual's belief on the morals of others. You know, what they believe about murder is as important as what you believe about murder and adultery and generally sleeping around before, or living with somebody before you marry them. You know, if everybody isn't on the same page, then bad things happen, and you have police states and, you know, broken families, and, you know. So to base those expectations on the love of others rather than simply labeling them as wrong is an impossible exercise, by the way, without the awareness and assistance of God. Not for direction, but for the will to love. In other words, you're not just, you know, asking for God to tell you what's right so much as giving you love and accepting God's love. That's how you know, it's, you know, making up what you think God is saying is not the point. It's loving. Relying on others to make those choices for us is the coward's way out. It takes no responsibility or love to rely on obedience to the church, to the bullies. Considering that the clergy has an unconscious asexual bias, meaning that their assumption that what is natural for them is natural for all of us, is simply foolish. They don't know what it's like to be out there in the dating pool. They're not even gay. They don't even find the gay dating pool in a lot of cases. They need to become aware that they are the A in LGBTQIA. Now, that can mean asexual or accepting or both and. You know, we're a church of both and, so you can be asexual and accepting, both of yourself and others. Each person is responsible for their moral expectations of others and the harm that may result if those expectations are not based in love. For example, every gay teen suicide is a responsibility of those who condemn rather than empathize. That's parents. That's the clergy that directs the parents. There's even people who say, you're saving their soul if you're harsh on them. It's like, no, they're not. You're just condemning them to the loneliness and suicide. Blaming God for such lack of empathy is moral cowardice. It's cheap faith, which is as bad as cheap grace. A major element of existentialism is authenticity, which requires responsibility for what one believes. Personal responsibility and responsibility for the group. Not doing this is bad faith. The description is apt. It's more than apt. It's reality. Reality is what's reality, not whether you obey or not. So, it's the world, the real world, as it is. So, bad faith, genius term. Thank you much. This is the end of part 2. I could never fit this all into one video, since I am not yet, as of now, don't have enough followers to do longer videos, so I've got a time limit. So again, thanks so much. Oh, by the way, I didn't say this the last time. Comments. People like comments. People like when you click on other things. So click on, if you're just coming on this one, see part 1. There's a lot of parts. Go to Christian Left, and there's like lots and lots of things in this vein. So yes. But comments say that I'm some kind of heretic, which I will say, yeah. So, it's like the person who is into BDSM, who, somebody describes how depraved their sex life isn't, and where's the good part? So, empathize with those people too, because, there are reasons people do pain, and it's not because they're perverse. So, Again, empathy. Not empathy, bad faith. The unexamined faith life is not worth praying. So, which people hate the idea of, and those people hate Francis, and they don't really like Jesus either. They've got their own concept that has no real connection with the Lord above and the Lord with. So, again, thank you, and good day. Blessed, Stephen.